call the entire game, whether it's a charge or a block or a deflection that was wrong, or a foul that should have been called that wasn't called, or vice versa. Give me a 48-minute report. And people that will understand that there's so many mistakes that the referees make over the course of the game that referees, ready folks, don't decide the outcome.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
How fragile are these guys? It's amazing. They're supposed to be the greatest athletes in the world, and yet they can't walk and chew gum at the same time without getting hurt, for goodness sakes.
That Trout injury really is a bummer, too, because people thought he was going to have a big year. And I look, I don't feel bad for the Angels. I don't like Mike Trout in Anaheim. I thought he should have left when his contract was up.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Devastating loss to Georgia Tech, where they made significant coaching errors. But Miami, with all of these changes, obviously looking to churn over this roster and upgrade the talent level.
Don't sleep on Rick Pitino. Listen, at the end of the day, the portal is the portal, Mike. Don't matter where you came from, it's where you're going and how much money can you get.
Inside the transfer portal, only on SportsGrid.
And now you have to qualify, and these majors, you got to go do it, man. Like, and it just comes off really petty to sit up there and be like, I'm not.
You know what you signed up for, so I don't like the pettiness, and I 100% think Taylor Gooch should be in the major championships. Mm-hmm. So in the same note, I'm saying this, but also it's like, hey, this is the world in which we live in right now, and you don't deserve anything.
Only on SportsGrid.
We are live on SportsGrid with NewsWire. I'm your host, Mike Blewitt, standing in for Craig Mish today. So, amongst all the action on the court and on the ice, we thought we'd lead with NBN and NHL. But not to be undeterred, the PGA Championship has taken the lead today, and not for the action that's happening on the course. As you all know by now, Scottie Scheffler was arrested and detained by Louisville police this morning, and we're going to have Charlie Hume on in a second to discuss this with us. But obviously a massive breaking story, as you see there from Jeff Darlington. World number one golfer Scottie Scheffler detained by police in handcuffs after a misunderstanding with traffic flow that led to his attempt to drive past a police officer into Valhalla Golf Club. Obviously, details continue to come out. You see the mugshot there from Scottie Scheffler, known to be one of the nicer guys on tour. There was a fatal car accident as someone crossing the road was struck by a bus and killed, sadly, very early this morning, which led to much of the police activity. It appears that Scottie Scheffler tried to go around that police activity, and when a police officer attempted to stop him, Scottie continued to move his vehicle forward. The police officer jumped upon the hood of the car, and it led to what we are now finding out more about. Let's bring Charlie in to talk a little bit further on this. You can find Charlie on SportsGrid every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday morning on the Smiley Show with Smiley Kaufman. So, of all the stories that we could have expected to break regarding just the PGA Championship this morning, this is not what I expected, Charlie.
It's truly surreal. I mean, I woke up to close to 200 texts on this and just trying to parse through the timeline. I think the place to start is the same place that Scottie Scheffler did when he released a very classy statement in the aftermath of all this. And it's expressing just deep sympathies and condolences to the family of the man who passed away. He was working for a vendor at the tournament. And so that kind of sets off this whole timeline. And bear with me here as we go through this, because there's so many moving pieces. So that fatal accident occurs at 5:09 a.m. At 5:39 a.m., and there is a text that is sent to every player in the field, and I'll read it to you here. It says, due to a serious accident, the only access to Gate 1 for players and caddies is from the west going eastbound on Shelbyville Road. Please plan to use this route to arrive at Valhalla Golf Club and allow extra time due to congested traffic. All public shuttles to the course are delayed until the serious accident has been cleared. So it is likely that at that point, Scotty was already en route to the course. At 6:01, Scotty Scheffler arrives and attempts to enter either with the instructions he's received via text or under the previous set guidelines for players arriving. He attempts to drive in. An officer jumps on his car. He is pulled out of the car. He's detained. There's a video here you're seeing from Jeff Darlington with ESPN, who Scotty in a moment reaches out to and says, "Hey, can you please help me here?" He's pulled out of his car. He's handcuffed. He's taken into custody. He is charged with second-degree assault on a police officer, third-degree criminal mischief, reckless driving, and disregarding a police officer directing traffic. So he's booked at 7:28 a.m. At 8:40 a.m., Scotty's released from detention and escorted to Valhalla by the owner of the club, Jimmy Kirchdorfer. He arrives at 9:12 a.m. His tee time, all tee times this morning were pushed back an hour and 20 minutes because of this fatal accident. And so his tee time is moved to 10:08 a.m. He gets about a 30-minute warm-up on the range, goes to the first tee, and makes birdie on his first hole. And now we're kind of off and running. But that's the timeline of events, and just a stunning, shocking thing to be talking about when we're here at the second major of the year involving the number one player in the world.
And now Scotty is now at today birdied again, I believe. So he's -1 on the day, -5 on the tournament. He's tied for 7th as we move a little bit deeper into Friday. It's worth noting that he is not the only golfer's tee time that was bumped back. All of the action was bumped back, as Charlie said, about an hour and 20 minutes. He was supposed to tee off at 8:45 and then teed off at 10:08. So he was getting to the course at least 2.5 hours before his tee time, and it ended up resulting in him getting to the course less than an hour ahead of his tee time. So it obviously jams up what he is trying to do for the day, and I'm sure he's emotionally compartmentalizing as best he can. Let's read his statement, because I think it is worth noting that he understands the severity of the situation. There's a lot of confusion here, but he says, "This morning I was proceeding as directed by police officers. It was a very chaotic situation, understandably so, considering the tragic accident that had occurred earlier, and there was a big misunderstanding of what I thought I was being asked to do." He goes on to say, it truly puts everything in perspective, the loss of life that occurred. So of all the things, like I opened up with, Charlie, of all the things that we expected to happen today on the course, this was probably the last of it. And the fact that it did go a couple of steps further, and he was booked and charged with several, at this point, I would say misdemeanors, but we'll see what they rise to the level of. It's a very unexpected situation and unprecedented as far as I can tell.
100%. And, it's hard to know the specifics, of course. We live in a day and age where you get cell phone video of certain things happening. You try to make your best judgment as to what the situation was based on that. We have the police report now. We have those charges now, of course. But I really hate this for a lot of parties involved. I hate this for the city of Louisville. I hate this for the PGA of America. I hate this for Valhalla Golf Club. Obviously the tragedy occurred, of course, but just, the amount of steps that it takes to get to this point. And you just have to wonder about the level of preparation on the ground to understand that, hey, this is a fluid situation and players are trying to kind of react as best they can and still prepare to play in a major. And so you get, you have the number one player in the world. You pull him out of his car, you handcuff him, you take him to the station, you put him in a jumpsuit, you take a mug shot, you hit him with these felony charges that's being reported. It's hard for me to understand how it gets to this point, knowing the discussion that's going to happen, on this TV channel, on social media, elsewhere. I mean, all these things are clearly going to, be a stain on the event in a lot of ways. And so I really feel for the parties involved who this was out of their control in a lot of ways, yet it's going to mar this tournament and the, whether or not this tournament comes back in the future, you have to kind of ask some questions as to what that looks like given the way this was handled.
Right, and the arresting officer, Brian Gillis, says Scheffler disobeyed his orders, dragged him to the ground. So there was at least a moment where it was very serious. And I would think this will get cleared up, but it remains to be seen because we don't know what happened in those, what is likely to be 10 or 20 seconds worth of time, Charlie, that created this entire incident.
I'm told his defense attorney, Steve Romines, is one of the best in Louisville and maybe the state of Kentucky. And we heard some comments from him earlier, with regard to the case. So I assume it'll get resolved. And then if you kind of turn this to on-course performance, Scotty was likely, I spoke to a trainer of several tour pros this morning. Scotty was likely arriving early to get a lift in, and obviously was not able to do that. Whether or not he was able to do kind of his standard mobility work that usually lasts from 15 to 30 minutes for most tour pros to loosen up, that is unclear. Obviously went to a range for about a half-hour warm-up and then went to the first tee. He's 1 under, so it doesn't seem to be hugely materially impacting his play thus far. But it'll be interesting to see. His odds immediately jumped up to 8-1 when this was announced, and then moved back down to 5-1 once it was sort of like he's making it to the course he's going to play. But just a strange, bizarre situation at Valhalla Golf Club side of the PGA Championship this year.
I got about 30 seconds for you. What can we expect from you on SportsGrid regarding your coverage of PGA?
Smiley and I will do daily journal recaps every day here in Valhalla. We're going to do one right now, emergency reacting to the Scotty situation. You can find us on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. We are The Smiley Show in all of those locations.
Great stuff there from Charlie Hume. You listen to him on SportsGrid. You find him here on this show and various shows, as well as The Smiley Show on the grid. When we come back, we'll turn it on to the court on the NBA, where the Nuggets dropped a big one to the Timberwolves last night, and that series continues to go further. We're back on the grid on NewsWire after this.
Whether it's a charge or a block or a deflection that was wrong or a foul that should have been called that wasn't called or vice versa. Give me a 48-minute report. And people that will understand that there's so many mistakes that the referees make over the course of the game that referees, ready folks, don't decide the outcome.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
How fragile are these guys? It's amazing. They're supposed to be the greatest athletes in the world, and yet they can't walk and chew gum at the same time without getting hurt, for goodness sakes.
That Trout injury really is a bummer, too, because people thought he was going to have a big year. And I don't feel bad for the Angels. I don't like Mike Trout in Anaheim. I thought he should have left when his contract was up.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Devastating loss to Georgia Tech, where they made significant coaching errors. But Miami, with all of these changes, obviously looking to churn over this roster and upgrade the talent level.
Don't sleep on Rick Pitino. Listen, at the end of the day, the portal is the portal, Mike. Don't matter where you came from, it's where you're going and how much money can you get.
Inside the transfer portal, only on SportsGrid.
And now you have to qualify in these majors. You got to go do it, man. And it just comes off really petty to sit up there and be like, I'm not.
You know what you signed up for. So I don't like the pettiness, and I 100% think Taylor Gooch should be in the major championships. Mm-hmm. So in the same note, I'm saying this, but also it's like, hey, this is the world in which we live in right now, and you don't deserve anything.
Only on SportsGrid.
Back on NewsWire, I'm your host, Mike Blewitt, again in for Craig Mish. We'll turn over to the hardwood now, off of the golf course, onto the hardwood, and welcome in Matt Lutovsky. Matt Lutovsky from the Sporting News, here to help us cover the NBA. And Matt, that game expected to be tight last night. It was anything but, where the T-Wolves blow the doors off the Nuggets to force a Game 7. 115-70 was the final. A massive win for the T-Wolves. Anthony Edwards, 27 points. Jaden McDaniels with 21. but Mike Conley's return really seemed to be the key for the T-Wolves. Anthony Edwards and many of the players and coaches were discussing his impact on the court last night, and clearly Conley's ability to distribute and take some of the pressure off of Edwards made him and the team far more efficient offensively.
Yeah, definitely. And Anthony Edwards said that right after the game, too. He was asked his press conference, what was the difference? He said, we got Mike Conley back. And there's no doubt that whatever Conley adds with his scoring, his three-point shooting is almost sort of a bonus. But like you said, he is the distributor. He's the quarterback of the offense. I just think for a team like that, there's a sense of relief when they look over and they see Mike Conley on the court. And he's a little bit smarter defensively, even if he isn't quite as big or quite as athletic as some of the other guys they can play in that spot. And he just knows what to do. He just knows where to go. He knows where to get people the ball to put them in position. So his return was without question huge. Did anyone think that was going to meet it? They were going to win by 45? I don't think so. So there was clearly more going on than just that, starting with Denver missing shots that they've been making the past 3 games, and Jaden McDaniels finally joining the series on the offensive end. But what I thought was interesting, too, for the Wolves is Karl-Anthony Towns didn't do much offensively. 10 points, didn't make a 3. This wasn't one of those games where, every guy on the Wolves was hitting their shots. No one on the Nuggets was hitting their shots. No one on the Nuggets really hit their shots except for Nikola Jokic and Aaron Gordon a little bit. But the Wolves, I think, still have another level to go to offensively, at least in terms of consistency from all their shooters and all their scorers. So this really sets up a fascinating Game 7. We've seen a little bit of everything in this series: Wolves blowouts, Nuggets blowouts, some close games where one of the teams pulled away late. And it really feels like anything can happen in this Game 7, and I think it's going to be a real treat for fans.
Yeah, we'll see that one Sunday night. The Nuggets favored by 4.5 at home with a total of 198. They dropped 2 games, one by 26, one by 45. So some curious performances out of the Nuggets in this series, and we'll look forward to that Game 7. The only Game 7 really in our world right now, although others may be happening on the court and on the ice. Let's move over to the big one for tonight. The New York Knicks go to Indianapolis tonight. They will be 6-point underdogs on the road against the Pacers, total of 215. With New York having the opportunity to close this series out, do you think they have enough juice to do this on the road?
Yeah, it's definitely going to be tough. I mean, again, it's just tale of 2 series based on where the games have been played. And we've seen close games in this series. We've seen blowouts from both teams in this series. In the last 2 games, almost identical scores, just the other direction. And the Knicks are definitely playing shorthanded. There's no doubt about that. I think a lot of people thought that would carry over to Game 5. It didn't. New York found its mojo, perhaps being back at home. And I would kind of expect Indiana to do the same in this game. They certainly looked great in Game 4. They came out. The Knicks were beaten down. And certainly the Knicks are going to go for it. I mean, they're not just going to say, okay, we'll try to win Game 7 at home. They're going to go all out to win, as they should. But I think Indiana's going to have a little more at home. They just seem to play better there. Tyrese Halliburton's the main guy who seems to play better at home, at least in this series. And I like the Pacers, but it's tough to ever count the Knicks out, especially with Jalen Brunson playing as well as he has almost this entire playoffs, and he's the engine. So I think we're going to see a good game. I actually think it's going to be a little bit lower scoring. It's always weird to say that about a Pacers game because they could just turn up the pace and score a ton by themselves. But I think we're going to see a really good game again tonight. But I do like the Pacers by not a comfortable margin, but not a slight margin, somewhere in between. But yeah, this is another series where I'm prepared for anything.
Okay, so 6-point spread there. Again, if you like them comfortable, you lay the 6 with the Pacers. Tough one tonight. How about Oklahoma City will go to Dallas? Dallas trying to close it out at home in Game 6 tomorrow night. They are 4-point favorites with a total of 209. Your expectations for Oklahoma City being able to extend this to Game 7 possibly?
Yeah, I mean, I think they can. There's no doubt about it. What's so fascinating to me about this series is you look at everything but Game 1. Game 1 feels like the outlier of this series. But the last 5 games, Dallas has been consistently out rebounding Oklahoma City. Not really a surprise. We know Oklahoma City had some size disadvantages. That's sort of how they played all year. Okay, that's somewhat to be expected. But Oklahoma City is not shooting the three well. Dallas has been out shooting them from three. And for Oklahoma City to win, they have to be shooting the three a lot better. And it's tempting to look at that and say, all right, we've had 5 straight games shooting poorly from three. That's going to start to even out. We're too good for that not to start evening out. But you can also just say Dallas is doing something. It's affecting them. Some of their shooters are in a slump for whatever reason. And playing in Dallas is really tough for them. So I expect a good game, a competitive game. Oklahoma City always fights. They always fight. You have to give credit to that team for as young as they are. They fight, and I think they're going to make that a great game. I wouldn't be surprised by anything that happens in Game 6.
Matt, before I let you go, only about 30 seconds here. Bronny James going to remain in the draft process. Any comments? It's a unique situation, obviously. Any comments about what could happen with him come draft time?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone knows why a team might be more interested in Bronny than other sub 6'2" guards who averaged 5.5 points in college and did not shoot well. But, I just have a tough time imagining if he had any other last name or first name that he would be garnering as much interest as he does. But he has that name, and it's working to his advantage. So we'll see what happens. But I don't know. Not too excited personally, but we'll see.
I don't think it would even be a discussion. Matt Lutovsky from Sporting News, thanks. We'll be right back after this on The Grid.
Every missed call, the entire game, whether it's a charge or a block or a deflection that was wrong or a foul that should have been called that wasn't called or vice versa. Give me a 48-minute report. And people that will understand that there's so many mistakes that the referees make over the course of the game that referees, ready folks, don't decide the outcome.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
How fragile are these guys? It's amazing. They're supposed to be the greatest athletes in the world, and yet they can't walk and chew gum at the same time without getting hurt, for goodness sakes.
That Trout injury really is a bummer, too, because people thought he was going to have a big year. And I don't feel bad for the Angels. I don't like Mike Trout in Anaheim. I thought he should have left when his contract was up.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Devastating loss to Georgia Tech, where they made significant coaching errors. But Miami, with all of these changes, obviously looking to churn over this roster and upgrade the talent level.
Don't sleep on Rick Pitino. Listen, at the end of the day, the portal is the portal, Mike. Don't matter where you came from, it's where you're going and how much money can you get.
Inside the transfer portal, only on SportsGrid.
And now you have to qualify in these majors. You got to go do it, man. And it just comes off really petty to sit up there and be like, I'm not.
You know what you signed up for. So I don't like the pettiness, and I 100% think Taylor Gooch should be in the major championships.
Mm-hmm.
So in the same note, I'm saying this, but also it's like, hey, this is the world in which we live in right now, and you don't deserve anything.
Only on SportsGrid.
To close out this half hour of NewsWire, it's the SportsGrid Sound Off. We'll give you the latest sound bites coming out of the sports world. So, obviously, the big story of the day, as we discussed earlier in the show, was Scottie Scheffler. Scottie Scheffler, the number one ranked golfer in the world, on his way to Valhalla Golf Course to continue day 2 of the competition in the PGA Championship, was arrested, detained by Louisville police. It is related to a fatal traffic accident that occurred right near the golf course. The gentleman unfortunately lost his life, was working for a vendor on the golf course, was hit by a bus in a bus lane. There was obviously some confusion regarding where Scotty was allowed to go. He drove his car where he was directed not to and was subsequently arrested by Louisville police, later picked up by the owner of Valhalla Golf Club and brought back to the course just an hour before his tee time. So the arresting officer, Brian Gillis, states that Scheffler disobeyed his orders and dragged him to the ground with his car, causing injuries to the officer and his clothing. The charges at present are assault second degree of a police officer, very serious, criminal mischief in the third degree, reckless driving, and disregarding signals from officers directing traffic. There will be a lot more to come with the Scotty Scheffler story, but at present he is 7th in the PGA Championship. I think he is still clinging to 5 under par, tied for 7th and 1 under on the day. So it hasn't affected his play as of yet, but it has to be an incredibly emotional day. You wonder if it will wear him down throughout. So next, on to the big win for the T-Wolves. Anthony Edwards had this to say after his big Game 6 win over the Nuggets.
Can score. What kind of pride, or how did you embrace the challenge of checking, guarding Jamal as much as you did?
It's what I look forward to. I think I don't know how long ago I said I want to be the best player on both sides of the ball in the NBA, and like I told her, I think it was probably 2 years ago. It's something that I've been working on, and it always comes with being in shape. And it seems like towards the end of the season, I always tend to get in my best shape, and I wasn't tired at all chasing him around and following him everywhere he went and contesting all his shots. And he's a great player, man, and I feel like I did a good job tonight.
Did you really tell the locker room staffer in Denver you were going to be back for
Hell
Game 7?
Yeah. They know I was in there. Yeah, I told them. I said, I'll see y'all for Game 7. Yeah.
As likable as it gets, the number one pick from a couple of years ago, obviously coming into his own and having a tremendous postseason so far. On the flip side, the opposing coach of the Denver Nuggets, Mike Malone, had this to say about the impending Game 7.
I told the guys at halftime, I said, fellas, if I would have told you before the game that they'd be shooting 42 from the field and 30 from the three-point line, would you have taken it? And they all said, yeah. I says, well, the reason we're getting our ass kicked is because you're not taking care of the ball, you're not rebounding, and we're playing with no physicality and no toughness. The good thing is we'll go home, again, watch this film and understand there are going to be things that we can do differently from a game plan standpoint. But to me, the much bigger issue is we have to do a lot better job of being locked in and ready to play in a Game 7. And again, those are the two greatest words in sports, Game 7. So hopefully our guys in front of an amazing crowd will be ready to go, and we have the intangibles the way we've had them for the last 3 games prior to tonight.
Well said by Mike Malone. Game 7 are the best 2 words in sports. Hopefully we'll get a few more of those. I'm a Knicks fan, so hopefully not in that series, but hopefully we see some more Game 7s on the hardwood and on the ice. But just a tremendous performance. There's been a few like this. The Knicks had a lay-down game a couple of games ago, Game 4, I believe it was, and then the Nuggets had one last night. There's no real explanation. They just emotionally, they couldn't get to where they needed to get to, and the T-Wolves blew them off the floor. It'll be an excellent Game 7. I'd imagine they'll find their motivation again, and I think Mike Malone is spot on. When we come back, we're going to have Jim Gazzale from Legal Sports Report talking about some things related to Scotty Scheffler, but also some big breaking news, obviously, that we review every single week here on NewsWire to see what the latest returns are in the state of New York and more. So when we come back, we'll have him. And then later on in the show, we'll have Shawne Merriman on to talk about the Lights Out Sports TV app that's in app stores now. Back after this on NewsWire.
game, whether it's a charge or a block or a deflection that was wrong or a foul that should have been called that wasn't called or vice versa. Give me a 48-minute report. And people that will understand that there's so many mistakes that the referees make over the course of the game that referees, ready folks, don't decide the outcome.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
How fragile are these guys? It's amazing. They're supposed to be the greatest athletes in the world, and yet they can't walk and chew gum at the same time without getting hurt, for goodness sakes.
That Trout injury really is a bummer too, because people thought he was going to have a big year. And I look, I don't feel bad for the Angels. I don't like Mike Trout in Anaheim. I thought he should have left when his contract was up.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Devastating loss to Georgia Tech, where they made significant coaching errors, but Miami, with all of these changes, obviously looking to churn over this roster and upgrade the talent level.
Don't sleep on Rick Pitino. Listen, at the end of the day, the portal is the portal, Mike. Don't matter where you came from, it's where you're going and how much money can you get.
Inside the transfer portal, only on SportsGrid.
And now you have to qualify in these majors. You got to go do it, man. Like, and it just comes off really petty to sit up there and be like, I'm not.
You know what you signed up for. So I don't like the pettiness, and I 100% think Taylor Gooch should be in the major championships. So in the same note, I'm saying this, but also it's like, hey, this is the world in which we live in right now, and you don't deserve anything.
Only on SportsGrid.
Back on NewsWire, and we bring in Jim Gazzale from the Legal Sports Report. He's sports betting and horse racing business news for Legal Sports Report. So, Jim, obviously big news out in Kentucky, Louisville, normally known for horse racing, but that's not the story of the day. Valhalla Golf Club and Scotty Scheffler become the #1 sports story of the day unexpectedly.
Yeah, certainly. And, I think you guys touched on it pretty well off the top of the show. I could kind of just take you through the timeline of things as they transpired this morning with that fatal pedestrian accident right after 5 o'clock this morning. And then, at least according to reports, it seems like Scotty Scheffler, the #1 golfer in the world, was trying to navigate around some traffic to get into the golf club to prep himself for the second round there. This morning, when he got into a little bit of a run-in with an officer there, he was ultimately arrested, detained, and then released and back on the course for his tee time. Now, a couple of the charges that he's facing: assault of a police officer, criminal mischief, reckless driving, disregarding traffic signals. That assault charge is a felony. What comes of this, Mike? I think you touched on it a little bit earlier. I have to imagine that the penalties for this will be relatively minor. I did reach out to a contact with the PGA this morning to see if there was anything additional that they could provide to me, and they declined to comment further, just deferring me to Scotty Scheffler's statement, where he said largely that this was a large misunderstanding. Now, on the betting side of this all, largely unchanged, at least according to the data that I was looking at this morning from BetMGM. Scheffler opened up pre-tournament at plus 750. Yesterday, he moved to plus 450, and that line remained the same at plus 450 today, despite all of the action and, of course, that tragedy that happened outside of the golf club in Louisville this morning.
I appreciate your thoughts on that. Again, we're with Jim Gazzale from Legal Sports Report. You find him on X.com at Jim, Gazzale, Jim Gazzale. So let's move over to some of the things that you've written about recently. Congressman Paul Tonko from upstate New York has introduced a bill, and you had asked him for an update on his proposal. The language includes a federal bill restricting sports betting advertisements. So I'd love you to give us a little bit more color on that.
Yeah, so Congressman Tonko's been working on an initiative like this for the last year and a half or so, and right now what they're doing, well, I spoke to him on Sunday here locally, and he said that what they're doing right now is really fine-tuning the language in the bill so they can get it exactly as they intended for the sports betting community. And the two main things that he's looking to target is, number one, advertising, and two, the use of artificial intelligence by the sports books. So on the advertising side, he wants to target the words bonus, no sweat, odds boost, amongst other things in commercials and iPhone notifications that you see on your cell phone and whatnot. There are a few other states, and of course Congressman Tonko wants to regulate this at the federal level. There are a few states that do already have some laws on the books kind of limiting the sort of vocabulary that sports books are allowed to use when it comes to their advertising. Ohio comes to mind, and even in Massachusetts, a lot of the DraftKings signage at Fenway Park and Gillette Stadium, for example, needs to include a 21 plus notification on all of those DraftKings logos and branding around these stadiums. So there has been some movement, at least on the state level, in regards to limiting some advertising in the sports betting industry. Now, Congressman Tonko wants to regulate that at the federal level. Now, on the artificial intelligence side, which I found most interesting, it would prohibit sportsbooks from tracking player habits and offering them personalized promotions, which would be fairly strict, I guess, because a lot of these sports books, in my conversations with them, view themselves as tech companies. So they do rely a lot on AI to generate their odds and their lines on certain markets. One other thing that Tonko's bill would do is prevent sportsbooks from using artificial intelligence for pricing on live betting, which, as we've seen in recent months, even the last year, just the sort of explosion in the popularity of live betting for these sports books. So, like I said off the top, I spoke to Congressman Tonko on Sunday, and they are fine-tuning the language in this bill, and they are expected to release this bill and push it forward, introduce it officially at a later point this year, he told me.
Great. One more topic here. The New York sports betting apps kicked off the new fiscal year with a $1.96 billion handle in the month of April. Obviously, you have Knicks and Rangers at play, but UConn going to the Final Four maybe had an impact on that. So the fourth most since the online New York sports betting market launched in January of 2022. So a big handle for the state of New York.
Yeah, absolutely. And, some might look at this and say, oh, well, they fell short of that $2 billion mark, which they've hit multiple times in the last 5-6 months. But yeah, still a pretty large number, especially for April, where, in the absence of the NFL season, and, we had Final Four weekend in April. So certainly a big number. Last April 2023, $1.55 billion in handle. So an increase year over year in April for handle in New York. FanDuel, $780.5 million in handle. They took 40% of the online market and generated $91 million in revenue. So another solid month for them. Overall, online revenue for the sportsbooks, $183.8 million in total online revenue. and the state collected $46.4 million in tax revenue, which, they certainly rely on quite heavily. Some large fiscal projections for New York as it pertains to sports betting. And certainly the fiscal year kicks off in April. So a positive start for both the sports books and the state as well.
Great stuff there. Obviously, those two stories connected. Representative Tonko trying to make sure that all of the ducks are in a row with consumers as the sports books continue to be more successful. I got only like 30 seconds for you on the Preakness, but it seems like the Preakness has seen an increase in future bets this year, correct?
Yeah, so overall betting on the race last year hit a 3-year low. This year, as we're looking at the race tomorrow, the Preakness future wager had a 28% increase in betting this year compared to last year. So a positive sign as we head into tomorrow's race for the Preakness. We'll see how it shakes out. 8 horses, going to be a muddy track. I imagine handle will be probably a little bit lower than they were expecting, given the short field and a muddy track, which tends to have a negative impact on the overall betting volume. But we'll see as they head to the post tomorrow evening.
Great stuff, as always, by Jim Gazzale. You find him at Legal Sports Report on X.com and here on NewsWire each and every week. Thanks, Jim. We'll be back with more after this.
Whether it's a charge or a block or a deflection that was wrong or a foul that should have been called that wasn't called or vice versa. Give me a 48-minute report. And people that will understand that there's so many mistakes that the referees make over the course of the game that referees, ready folks, don't decide the outcome.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
How fragile are these guys? It's amazing. They're supposed to be the greatest athletes in the world, and yet they can't walk and chew gum at the same time without getting hurt, for goodness sakes.
That Trout injury really is a bummer, too, because people thought he was going to have a big year. And I don't feel bad for the Angels. I don't like Mike Trout in Anaheim. I thought he should have left when his contract was up.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Devastating loss to Georgia Tech, where they made significant coaching errors, but Miami, with all of these changes, obviously looking to churn over this roster and upgrade the talent level.
Don't sleep on Rick Pitino. Listen, at the end of the day, the portal is the portal, Mike. Don't matter where you came from, it's where you're going and how much money can you get.
Inside the transfer portal, only on SportsGrid.
And now you have to qualify in these majors. You got to go do it, man. And it just comes off really petty to sit up there and be like, I'm not.
You know what you signed up for. So I don't like the pettiness, and I 100% think Taylor Gooch should be in the major championships.
Mm-hmm.
So in the same note, I'm saying this, but also it's like, hey, this is the world in which we live in right now, and you don't deserve anything.
Only on SportsGrid.
Back on NewsWire, bringing in Shawne Merriman, the former NFL linebacker, 3-time All-Pro linebacker, to talk about one of his new ventures and promoting an event that's happening tomorrow night. Shawne, good to have you on here. You've launched Lights Out Sports, which is obviously available in the App Store. I'd love to have you tell everybody a little bit about what we can find on Lights Out and exactly where to get it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Just launched Lights Out Sports TV, which is available on Apple TV, Amazon Fire. I think you guys are showing probably the web here.
Yep.
Roku, we're there, and then also we have our big fight this Saturday, tomorrow, for Lights Out Extreme Fighting 16. Probably our biggest card yet. That'll be live on Lights Out Sports, and also congratulations to you guys. SportsGrid now has a channel up and running too as well. And I'm excited about it because, I had this vision of having multiple sports, multi-sports. We got Speed Vision coming on board, Glory Kickboxing, I think, as you see, is there also chess, which I'm never knew that I was this much of a chess fan, but watching all the commentary even late last night. World Poker Tour to be on here the next couple of days or so, and more distribution, man. I'm just really excited to launch something of this magnitude and create a locker room feel, man. We want a locker room where people go to just watch sports and that's it. It's on every major CTV platform, and so check us out. It's completely free. So.
That's great. So, yeah, it's a fast channel, so free ad supported. You can go on there and find a lot of different types of content. Like Shawne is saying, there'll be some combat sports, and the big fight is tomorrow night, May 18th in Long Beach, California. The big event, the main event, Roy Echeverria versus Pablo Caballero. That's a flyweight vacant title, so they'll be going at it. But obviously a huge card tomorrow night as well, Shawne.
Yeah, this is massive, man. I think we ended up around 17 fights in one night, which is going to be a long night of fighting. So you guys get up, go to the kitchen, use the bathroom, come back to the screen. We'll still be on. But one of these two guys, I really do believe, will end up in the UFC at one point. The winner of this fight, I do believe they have an opportunity. In fact, I think we got about 2 or 3 guys on this card tomorrow night that have a real shot at the UFC. And as anybody know, been following, things that I've been pushing is to get more and more of these up and coming superstars to the UFC, man. I think that that's a huge win for us if we're able to do that, become one of the official feeder or partner to the UFC. And so, yeah, just keep having these fights. Every 4 to 6 weeks now, we're having a fight. So this is a lot of fights we got back to back, but this one tomorrow is going to be special. And it'll be live on Lights Out Sports TV.
I appreciate the fact that you're saying it's a feeder and a potential stepping stone, because it's not easy for these types of fighters to get a shot in the UFC right away, right? They need an opportunity to be able to show what they can do before they get a huge shot like that. So I can appreciate that we'll be seeing some quality fights of guys that maybe don't have the name recognition yet.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing, right? I mean, we understand the UFC is the big dogs. It's probably the reason why I'm in this sport and in this business from the first place. And so we know that we can start sending these guys to have an opportunity at these next up-and-coming guys. You want to get to know who they are before they get to the UFC, find out, look at their stories. And we got about 4.5 to 5 hours worth of fights tomorrow night. So we got a long night. Again, if you got one of those major TV platforms, you'll be able to download us, check us out, and it's going to be a great one.
Well, and beyond that, after the fight, there's plenty more content there, not just combat sports, chess, a variety of different things that you can find on there. So tune in to Lights Out Sports. And like he said, we'll have a channel on there. SportsGrid naturally is going to be talking about some of the content on Lights Out Sports. We'll be talking about odds whenever they're available, but our ability to make comment on some of these sports that are not some of the 4 majors. We have expertise in a lot of different sports. So looking forward to that and the marriage between Lights Out and SportsGrid. So given the fact that you are a 3-time All-Pro player and the NFL schedule release came out a couple of days ago, we thought we'd run you through a couple of questions. My first one really is just general. As a player, what was the first thing when the schedule came out? Maybe you didn't make as big a deal of it as we make now, but what was the first thing as a player that you needed to look at when the schedule came out officially?
First of all, you want to see, who you got in the division or who you got right in the AFC or in the NFC. Maybe a team that ran a score up on you last year. Maybe you got some players that were got a couple good plays on you and they were talking during the game. Maybe a cheap shot after the whistle. These are the things that the players would never come out publicly say, right? They're never going to say, "Hey, I'm going to come back and get that guy." But let me tell you, leading up in training camp, that film is watched of that player going after a guy's knees or catching a pass or blocking a cheap shot. It is looked at, even though the guys don't want to come out and say it. And don't get me wrong, it's a team game. You want to go out and get the win, but you got some personal grudges in there that happened the season before, and guys got that marked off. So Whether they say it or not publicly, it happens.
And the Chargers are kicking it off against the Raiders in week 1, so they get the divisional heated rivalry right out of the gate.
You know what? It couldn't be any better than that, right? Especially after the 63 points the Raiders put on the Chargers last year, and now holding a trophy. Right?
Okay. Here he's back. There you
Yeah,
go.
a lot
Right, so we had a little bit of.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Sean.
A lot of the Chargers fans are upset at that 63 points and how the Raiders held on to it. I think that's a perfect matchup. Also, you know, the Kansas City Chiefs and the Ravens. I think that's coming out the gate with a game like that could be implications of somebody that could see each other in the AFC Championship game. So I think the NFL did a great job at scheduling. And, you know, if you notice, they're almost building these the schedules up like movie premieres, right? I mean, it has
absolutely.
that kind of feel to it. And the NFL has always done a great job at being able to do that.
So new coach with your old team, Jim Harbaugh. We'll see how he can get them rolling. Obviously, he's going to play a lot more Smash Mouth than they have before. But to turn it back to Sean's big event, Lights Out Sports TV. Obviously, go check that out in the App Store and on all of your favorite devices. There's a big event tomorrow night, and that will be in Long Beach, California. Roy Echeverria, Pablo Caballero are the main event for the flyweight title. Big combat sports event, a huge card tomorrow night, Sean.
Thanks for having me, guys. And make sure you tune in Lights Out Sports TV.
Excellent. So, and you'll see the grid on Lights Out Sports as well. Thanks to Shawne Merriman. We'll come back to close out the show after this on NewsWire. I'm Mike Blewitt. We'll be right back.
Missed call the entire game, whether it's a charge or a block or a deflection that was wrong or a foul that should have been called that wasn't called or vice versa. Give me a 48-minute report. And people that will understand that there's so many mistakes that the referees make over the course of the game that referees, ready folks, don't decide the outcome.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
How fragile are these guys? It's amazing. They're supposed to be the greatest athletes in the world, and yet they can't walk and chew gum at the same time without getting hurt, for goodness sakes.
That Trout injury really is a bummer, too, because people thought he was going to have a big year. And I look, I don't feel bad for the Angels. I don't like Mike Trout in Anaheim. I thought he should have left when his contract was up.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid.
Devastating loss to Georgia Tech, where they made significant coaching errors. But Miami, with all of these changes, obviously looking to churn over this roster and upgrade the talent level.
Don't sleep on Rick Pitino. Listen, at the end of the day, the portal is the portal, Mike. Don't matter where you came from, it's where you're going and how much money can you get.
Inside the transfer portal, only on SportsGrid.
And now you have to qualify in these majors. You got to go do it, man. Like, and it just comes off really petty to sit up there and be like, I'm not.
You know what you signed up for. So I don't like the pettiness, and I 100% think Taylor Gooch should be in the major championships.
Mm-hmm.
So in the same note, I'm saying this, but also it's like, hey, this is the world in which we live in right now, and you don't deserve anything.
Only on SportsGrid.
Thanks for watching NewsWire today, everybody. Thanks to Craig Mish for letting me fill in for him today. Obviously, we opened up with a big story regarding Scotty Scheffler, and hopefully we covered that as best we could, and we'll develop throughout the day as he continues to compete in the PGA Championship. Thank you to Michael Cohen for his production, EJ and Sandro for the graphics, and to all of our guests, Charlie Hume and Matt Lutovsky and Jim Gazzale and Shawne Merriman. Appreciate all of them pitching in today. But before I leave, it's our last licks on NewsWire. So we started off with Greg Olsen. Greg Olsen, the erstwhile number one analyst on Fox, is no longer so. Tom Brady has finally decided to take his anointed position alongside Kevin Burkhardt, and that bumps Greg Olsen down to number 2 on the Fox pecking order as far as game analysts are concerned. And with that, he receives a $7 million pay cut. So insult to injury. Maybe Tom can hit him off with a little bit. I mean, he's taking his job. He didn't have to take his $7 million. But Tom Brady will replace him as the number one analyst officially, and Greg Olsen will go down to number 2. There are clauses in his contract that state that maybe he can leave if there's a number one job available, ostensibly at another network, because Tom has a long-term contract with Fox. That's via Andrew Marchand. So that's number 1. Number 2, we move over to we move over to Brian Flores. Brian Flores will be taking part in the NFL's Coach Accelerator program. So obviously, Brian Flores was involved in litigation with the NFL, and it was ruled last March that Flores must pursue his legal claims against the Dolphins through arbitration. He had claims against several teams. There are multiple people that joined the lawsuit, and it is now Flores is he can obviously pursue that, but Flores will continue to go through this Coach Accelerator program. And the point of all of this is for the NFL to continue to fill the pipeline of diverse coaching talent. And in addition to that, become more of a feeder system to general manager and administrative positions within teams. So it's a specific event that will be happening, and it aims to introduce and familiarize candidates with diverse backgrounds with the league's decision makers. His participation in the inaugural 22 Accelerator program, Rand Carthon was hired last year as a Tennessee Titans general manager from his post as a San Francisco 49ers director of player personnel. So there is proof that this Accelerator program has had success. So Brian Flores will continue to take part of it. As a fellow BC alum, I hope Brian Flores gets a head coaching gig once again soon, and a fellow New York City kid as well. So Flores certainly worthy of a head coaching position. And finally, we move over a little bit more lighthearted. Booze in Ann Arbor. They're selling alcohol at Michigan Stadium starting this season. The Michigan Athletic Department made the announcement Thursday following successful rollouts of alcohol sales at its hockey and basketball arenas. So it's not Michigan Athletics' first foray into selling alcohol, but it will be the first foray at the stadium. Michigan coming off their first national championship in over 25 years. They're going to celebrate in a big way. No more Jim Harbaugh, but they got a new basketball coach in Dusty May. They got a new head coach in football, Sherrod Moore. So we'll be seeing Michigan fans celebrating in safe and responsible ways, I hope. Obviously, fans of other teams will be jibing them all the way to see if they will, if they're drinking their sorrows away because Harbaugh is no longer a part of that team. Harbaugh now in L.A. with the Chargers. We had Shawne Merriman on talking about the Chargers and his days there and what they look for. I thought that was interesting insight that he wasn't talking about, I have to see where I might be able to have to get more tickets for family and friends. He's like, no, that guy that took a cheap shot at me last year, that's who I'm looking for to see when we play that guy. So that was the type of player he was, hard-nosed player, a hard hitter, and certainly an aggressive defensive player. So that's it for our last licks. Greg Olsen, Brian Flores, and alcohol sales at Michigan Stadium. On behalf of the entire staff here of NewsWire, appreciate you welcoming me here today at NewsWire, and great stuff all around. We'll continue to follow the Scotty Scheffler story throughout the day. We have incredible matchups on the ice and the hardwood all weekend long. We'll follow them here on the grid all day long. Thanks for having me.